So the other day, I was at this party, and the conversation of time travel got brought up. And you know how when you time travel, you always go back in time and, like, kill Hitler? But then it got me thinking, there's a cat in my shot. What if there were two baby Hitlers? Wait, not two baby Hitlers. What if there were two fully grown adult Hitlers? What if there were two fully grown adult Hitlers? That would be a terrible time to live in. Let's play some poker.
Family pot? How sacred is that for us?
Okay, yeah, we can run it like 5 times. Better.
Can't wait to get
Who's getting semen on these chicks?
Fuck you.
Shut the fuck up!
Alright, action on you. Okay, action on you. Okay, action. Okay, when you're comfortable, action. Okay, when you're
Yeah. Any other card I fucking yoink this pop from under your feet.
I wish I was deep in the hole of my brother.
The dude, there was a story about this dude ruining his, like, his car. What happened?
Oh shit, he killed himself?
Yeah, he
What?
65.
I can't fall there!
I don't care, you can talk. Look in the camera. You too thick as fuck.
You too! Wait! No, you mute.
Can you guys add 5? Everybody please add 5.
This video is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Welcome, fellow degenerate gamblers, to the Blitz Bankroll Poker Vlog, Episode 3. For our returning guest to the table, it's glad to have you back. And if you are new, allow me the privilege of explaining to you how things work around here. This is a private low-stakes home game featuring my gambling degenerate friends. Unlike most poker vlogs where you're playing against strangers, at this table you play against the same people again and again and again. So, no nerdy GTO stuff here, just good old exploitative street poker. Just as a disclaimer for the safety of the game, we take no rake and we do play penny stakes. However, for the sake of clarity, everything is treated as a 1-2 game. Before we get knee deep in the sauce, there is a hand that happens off camera before I can set up that is probably important to talk about. I am under the gun and I wake up with pocket kings. I make it $20 and the only person to call is Joseph in the big blind. We go heads up to a flop of 7-8 jack with 2 hearts. Joseph checks. I c-bet for $30, and he makes the call.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
It's time to talk about the players. This is Joe. He is loose, he is splashy, his favorite number is 6-9. This man is not afraid to get it in. I have seen him all in jam with an airball bluff on many occasions. He also really likes Pokemon. So when Joe leads for $30, I could see him doing this with a jack. I think there are a lot of hands here that would lead the flop and still call or raise with worse. So with my kings gripped firmly in my hand, I raise. $100 is the new price. He ends up calling pretty quickly, but what I didn't realize is that it was actually a 2v1 because the dealer shows me a jack of hearts.
Uh-oh.
Which not only puts me behind jacks, it also puts me behind every single flush draw. Not to mention, Joe continues to lead for $110 into a board soaked with my tears. Joe is very capable of bluffing, so I sit here and I think for a while. I tank fold and we lose with pocket kings to something. He doesn't show. This hand is a spicy prelude to the first recorded hand of the night. I buy up to the max since we play match the stack here, and I have 5-7 of diamonds under the gun. A suited gapper that should definitely be folded under the gun, but please indulge my manic thought process for a second. The next 2 people to act behind me are Aaron and Marcus, who are a bit on the tighter side, and they both know that if I'm under the gun and I'm raising, generally I'm pretty strong. They will see this vlog and know that I'm full of shit afterwards, but so there's a pretty good chance that they're gonna fold out most of their holdings. Behind them is Kat and Joe, and I don't mind if they call my raise. So that's what I do. I raise to $10. And I begin to execute my evil plan. Aaron and Marcus both fold as I said they would. Kat and Joe call, the button calls, and the blinds call as well. We're going 5 ways to a flop. It's 4-7-6 rainbow with 1 diamond. So we have top pair, an open ender, and a backdoor flush draw. The blinds check, and I bet $30. This board is pretty wet and not great for my perceived under the gun raising range. However, I do want to get value from my 7, and at the same time find out where I'm at. The board is fairly connected, so if someone has 2 pair or a set, they're probably going to raise me, especially for this size. However, no one does, Instead, we get 3 callers. The turn is a 2 of hearts. It is possible that someone behind me has a stronger 7, like King 7 or Ace 7 suited, so I check for a little bit of pot control. It checks around to my nemesis Joe, who bets $100. The button and the big blind end up folding for this price, and with my open ender and top pair, I make the call. I also just didn't believe Joe, you know? I was going through my GTO chart in my head and I was like, the vibe seems off. Anyway, the river brings in another 2 of the spade variety. I check, and Joe rips it for the rest of his stack, which is about $315. I didn't believe you on the turn. I am choosing to still not believe you on the river. If you flop the straight, then so be it. Take all my money. But I don't believe you flopped the straight. I make the call, I see the light leave his eyes, and that's when I know I'm the best to ever do it. The very next hand, I haven't even finished stacking my chips yet. We look down at pocket kings in the big blind. Brendan, who usually only plays for an hour or 2 before picking up his chips from the table, raises the $10 in the cutoff. The button and the small blind call, and with my incredibly extensive knowledge of poker, I think that I should raise here. Given that I'm a bit out of position, I bump it up to $65, which is a little bit on the bigger side. Brendan now responds to this by jamming all in for his remaining $150. It folds to me, and I once again use my incredibly extensive poker knowledge to come to the conclusion that I should call. We turn over our cards, and he shows us Ace King. Oh yeah, grab the forks and knives, because your ass is mine. Let's see a run out, shall we?
I can't wait to go to my therapist tomorrow and cry about how I'm so down tonight.
For this next hand, we look down at a couple of jacks in the small blind. There are a couple of limpers in the pot, so I go ahead and raise to $16. Yo, check out this cool move. Wabba! Renzo in the cutoff with his big sack on the table makes the call. Oh, look at that sweet baby there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah! Josh in the button makes the call as well. The flop comes Ace 2-5 with 2 hearts. This flop is okay. I end up leading out for $12 after it checks to me, but I think you could just find a check here. We do have really good showdown value, and sometimes my boys are just gonna have an ace here. Anyway, we don't check because we're bad, and we lead out for $12, which is pretty small, and we get 2 callers. Turn comes, and it is a 7 of hearts, and it checks all the way around. That pretty much gives me the green light to know that we're pretty good here. I don't think any ace is trapping, and if they are trapping, they're giving me free cards, so... Anyway, I'm ready to barrel the river, but it comes and it's a king of spades, which is also not a great card for me. So when it checks to me again, I just check it back, and I win. About an orbit later, we wake up with Ack! Offsuit in the middle position. There's 2 limpers, and I raise to $15, which is pretty standard. The off-screen Enigma thinks about it for a second, and then 3-bets me to $55.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
It's time to talk about the players. This rapscallion to my left's name is Aaron. He likes cars, he's a huge piano nerd, and apparently he likes to backstab his friends.
What if there were 2 Hitlers?
I pretty much trained Aaron in a lot of the poker knowledge that he has, and he never 3-bets me. At the same time, I'm kind of proud of him, I think. This table is very call heavy, and not a lot of 3-bets get around the table. So to see him take some aggressive action is like a thumbs up. Good job, Aaron. But also, against me? How dare you? It folds back around to me, and Aaron's got about 200 behind. And in hindsight, I definitely should have shoved here, being out of position. But not gonna lie, Aaron's 3-bet kind of threw me off. So I end up just making the call. The flop comes 9-9-5 with 2 diamonds. I think about it for a second, and then I check. Aaron continuation bets for about half pot, $50. At this point, I'm kind of putting Aaron leaning towards pocket pairs. We're talking jacks, queens, maybe some ace queen. Given that this bet isn't that big and the board is likely to miss both of us, I can call one time. I don't believe you just yet, Aaron. The turn is the 8 of diamonds. That's not a great card for me. I have no diamonds in my hand, and even if Aaron doesn't have a suited hand, which I don't expect him to have very often, he could have like pocket queens with the queen of diamonds. So he is shitting on my outs. Again, I check. Come on, Aaron. The flush is scary. You should just give up and check down. Unfortunately, it would seem that the student has become the master. Aaron continues to barrel for 125, undeterred by the third diamond. Not much to do here but fold. Aaron's got a lot of overpairs, and if he was 3-betting me in position with a suited connector, then he may have just hit the flush here. So I reluctantly fold. Didn't realize you had moves like that, brother. Next time, I'ma get your ass. A couple hands go by and we wake up with ace-10 offsuit in the big blind. There is one limper, and our very aggressive friend Sko decides to make it 16 from the button. Josh makes the call from the small blind, I make the call from the big blind, and Renzo makes the call from the cutoff. With ace-10, I think you could justify a raise here. It is a button raise, which means he's going to be opening pretty wide. And by just calling, it's sort of an open invitation to just go multi-way. And oftentimes, I'm probably just going to have the best hand right now. But Sko is kind of scary, so I just call. We go 4 ways to a flop of 2-8 queen with 2 diamonds. Nothing really going on this board, and even less going on for me. So it checks all the way to Sko, who I'm expecting to barrel if he's got anything. And sometimes if he has nothing. But he checks. Smells weak. Sko is not a very trappy player. If he's got a hand, he's gonna bet it. If he doesn't have a hand, he's also gonna bet it. So if he doesn't bet in position, it's time to steal this pot. The turn comes and it's a 2 of spades. Unless someone is just calling with a random 2 for 16, this is pretty much a brick. Josh in the small blind checks, and I take out some chips and I throw in 30 bucks. It folds around and we take it without a fight.
I had no battle in me for that one.
I'm gonna give it to I'm okay with that.
I hope I feel it. I haven't even seen my cards. I hope I feel it.
A couple more hands go by and we wake up with the lovely 7 deuce of hearts from the cutoff. Brendan, who previously doubled up off of us with ace-king versus kings, raises to 10. At this point in the night, we're all pretty deep, and Brendan's playing a little short stack. He's also a bit of a tighter player, so I know that most of the time if I raise here, it's gonna get a fold unless he has an actual monster underneath those cards. Renzo calls the 10, and with my premium holding, I raise to 55. I usually play this hand just to remind everyone that I'm a silly little guy, but we are playing the 7 deuce game, so if I do win the pot, I do get $5 from every player as well. That's when this guy, this stranger to my left, bumps it up to 150. Yo, what the fuck, Aaron? I thought we were friends! I trained you! I built you! I've been caught. It folds all the way around the table, and Aaron takes the pot. I show Aaron my 7 deuce and let him know that he's bad for poker.
Keep my brothers in the hole. Don't. I shouldn't have.
I wish I was deep in the hole with my brothers.
A few hands later, our friends Jack and Jack 2 have found their way back home. Josh does the limp move, and I raise to $16 once again.
Ain't no fun if the hole.
I can't fold it!
I think he might have 6-9. Being that he's at the top of his range, he's forced to call. Brendan, Renzo, and Josh also call, so we go 5 ways to a flop, which is what you want to see when you have pocket jacks. Board comes 2, 3, queen, all diamonds. Josh, our previous limping friend, suddenly donks into the pot for $30. Nice queen, bro. With the jack of diamonds in my hand, I make the call. We have about 11 outs to improve, and even if he also has a diamond in his hand, it's probably worse than mine, because king queen or ace queen would have probably raised pre-flop and not just limped. Joseph makes the call, and then Brendan decides to slap his entire dick on the table for $260. Nice, bigger queen, bro. Josh decides that he suddenly doesn't like his hand and folds. Now I know it might sound crazy, but I actually consider calling for a little bit. I'm pretty sure in this exact spot, Brendan has ace queen with no diamonds, which means that if we spike a jack or if we spike a diamond, we're probably taking this. Do some quick math in my head. We need to put in 230 to get 660, which means that we have to win about 35% of the time. However, in the best case scenario, assuming no one was holding any diamonds and my read is correct, we have about 11 outs, which means we're only winning about 23% of the time. So even in the best case scenario, this is not a great call. So I fold. And Brendan shows ace queen of clubs. We'll get him next time, pocket jacks. About half an orbit later, and we look down at the Asian report card, some pocket aces. Being under the gun, we bump it up to $12, and Marcus, Renzo, and Sko all make the call. Also, this is a bit off topic, but I feel like poker players should have cool poker names. So if you got any suggestions for cool poker nicknames to give to these players, then you should leave them in the comments below. If a comment gets enough likes, they'll have to take on that name, right? They don't really have a choice, so you have all the power. Also, we got pocket aces. Let's make it a little more dramatic before we see the flop, shall we?
Whoa!
Gotta go.
Night mode.
That was gone.
Flop comes 6, king, 7 with 2 hearts. This flop is actually pretty good for me. A lot of my opponents are going to connect with this board in a way that's worse than pocket aces, and I can get a lot of potential value out of kings and heart draws and straight draws. However, in the moment when Sko leads out for $20, I suddenly decide that I need to just call to keep in his bluffs. He's betting 20 into 50, and he's betting a king. He can't fold to a raise because he's still beating all of the draws that might raise him. And if he's betting a draw, he's getting a good price to continue. So I should always be raising here. However, I do not do that because I'm bad and I just call. Marcus also just calls, which puts me in a worse spot because he could just be laying in the weeds with a set or on a flush draw. If I had raised, I could have priced him out and gone heads up. Luckily, the turn is a 6 of spades, so we don't get punished yet. This makes a set of 6s even less likely, so this turn either improves Sko to a boat or he just has a king. Sko fires again for 50 bucks, which is, again, not that much. Surely I find the raise here, but no, again, I just call. Marcus also calls behind me, which pretty much screams that he's on a draw here. So at the moment, I'm just winning the minimum and I've got cards to fade. Fortunately, Marcus does not get there. The river is a 9 of diamonds. Sko fires again, 75 into 188. It's like barely third pot. Surely I find this raise, but I don't even think about it. I just snap call, Marcus folds, and I show him the aces, which I knew were good. He turns over king, queen. I let this man get away so cheap. We rake in a pot of over $300 and we are upset about it.
Probably.
So, fellas, how are we feeling under the Trump regime?
Is it 10 to me?
And yes, I do mean regime.
It's about 2 orbits later when Marcus opens to $11 from middle position.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
It's time to talk about the players. Just a little rundown about Marcus is he is one of the tighter players at the table, but he's also one of the more studied ones. If I'm correct, he used to play a lot of 1-2 cash, and now he plays a lot of online. Me and Marcus also actively study hands off the table together, and he loves GTO, which is very interesting because I'm pretty much the opposite. I love exploitative play. So in a way, when me and Marcus go heads up, it's sort of like 2 different styles of kung fu going at it. So when I look down at Jack 10 offsuit in the big blind, I decide to defend. The flop comes and it's 10-5-3 rainbow. I start with a check. Given that I'm defending from the big blind, I think Marcus knows that this board is typically going to hit my range more often than it's going to hit his. However, being that I'm defending from the big blind, I know that he knows that I'm probably going to miss this board a lot too. Marcus is going to have a lot of pocket pairs, overcards, and occasionally pocket tens, though in this particular case I do block that. So when I check to him, he leads out tiny, $5 into the pot. That's less than a quarter pot. To me, this feels like a feeler bet. Marcus probably has some overcards here, and he's trying to incite a raise. Maybe from like pocket 3s, pocket 5s, some weird 5-3 suited hand. If he had a pocket pair that was under a 10, he'd probably bet bigger for some protection, so I'm putting him on overcards here. Given that I don't think he's very strong, I like to just call. If we raise here, we're sort of just letting him get away from the pot real cheap. The turn is the 7 of diamonds. This is generally a great card for me. I don't expect Marcus to ever be raising pre-flop with 6-4, which makes the nuts now. But me in the big blind, I could realistically call with that. I check, and Marcus barrels again for $23. I'm still not convinced that Marcus has a strong hand, so I just call with my top pair. I will say, if I didn't have top pair, this is a great check raising spot, and I'd probably go huge. It brings in the straight that realistically only I could have, and it also brings in some backdoor diamonds. The river bestows its blessings upon us with a 10 of hearts. Now we know we have the best hand. I think about this for a second, and there's 2 kinds of hands that I'm putting Marcus on. He's either got overcards, or he's got an overpair. If I check here, I think both overcards and overpairs end up just checking it back. And the only hand that realistically would bet here is like 10-9 suited, which is very unlikely for him to have. So at this point, I get a little greedy. If he's just got overcards and I bet, he's just gonna fold. But if he's got an overpair, he might find a hero call. It's also possible for me to have a weak pair on the flop that turns a backdoor flush draw on the turn. And when it bricks out on the river, I'm pretty much forced to bluff. So I decide to target exclusively overpairs and overbet the pot for 120 bucks. And while I do have essentially the effective nuts here, I would find the same betting line if I had a hand like 6-5 of diamonds, for example. Unfortunately, Marcus's GTO Kung Fu is too great, and he finds the fold. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last hand of the night, we look down at a couple of hooks in the low jack. The small blind is dead, and Josh limps under the gun. Remember in a previous episode where I said that Josh likes to limp in under the gun with weak aces? Anyway, we look down at a couple of hooks, and we raise it up to $15. It folds all the way around to Sko in the big blind, who makes the call, and Josh makes the call as well. Excellent. We have a premium, we're in position, and there's no way we could mess this up, right? Flop comes 10, 7, 10 with 2 hearts, which is pretty good flop for me. We have an overpair on a medium-sized board, which is pretty good. That being said, this is typically the type of board where you're either very ahead or very behind. So when it gets to me, I take a nice little dip with my C-betting toe into the water, and I bet $25. Sko folds, and Josh calls. I start to consider that maybe Josh is on a flush draw, but I cease to give any fucks when the 10 of clubs rolls off on the turn. We got a fucking boat, boys. We got a fucking boat. Now let it be known the dopamine is going crazy right now. But on the outside, I've got like the same expression when I'm laying sideways in bed and it's 3 in the morning and I'm still doom scrolling. Then Josh leads into the pot for 40 bucks. Now this right here is the moment where I mess it all up. I should be fist pumping right now. Ace 10 raises preflop. Jack 10 suited raises preflop. 9-10 suited raises preflop. All his 10s raise preflop, and yet in my brain, I begin to think, maybe this man's got quads. Anyway, long story short, I should be raising huge here. Would you be able to fold a 7 if I 8x'd your raise? It's pretty much either go huge here, or bet the sizing that allows me to set up a good river jam. Anyway, I elect to do none of those things, and I just call. The last card is the ace of clubs. What an inconsiderate card. What's even more inconsiderate is Josh leads out again for 60 bucks. Josh, if you hit that river, I'm gonna be really upset. Maybe the poker gods made me play terribly on the turn on purpose to save me. I'm not good enough to fold this, so I make the call. And he turns over ace 7 offsuit, the offsuit ace that I knew he had. Apparently the best way to beat me is to just donk, and then I lose all sense of direction. I play another orbit or so before racking up and deciding to head home. We don't end up making much, but we do end up in the green, so we live to fight another day. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you like any of the hands I played, or if you think I played anything particularly wrong. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
I'm a super broke kid with nothing but rich friends. Super broke kid with nothing but loose ends. This money come and go.